Joined on the podcast now for the first time ever, Nicole Scott from the Small Business Development Center at Rhode State College. Nicole, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for having us.
I'm excited to talk to you because you all do a lot of work down there. And I think a lot of things that you do, people may not realize are resources that are available to them at the cost of a conversation. And that's a pretty big lift you're all doing down there.
Well, I appreciate that. But yes, you are correct. So we like to say that we are the best kept secret, which isn't always in the best interest of our entrepreneurs and future economic development. But and you're right, Doug, the cost of a conversation. So all of our services are completely free and we are grant funded. And that's why our services are free, because we are funded through the Small Business Administration federally, the Department of Development through the state of Ohio, and Rhode State College helps our initiative as well. And we like to call that our host site or our home site. But we are responsible for 9 counties in Northwest Ohio, and we're small but mighty. And Hancock County happens to be one of them in our territory. So we're very excited to be a part of the Hancock County Chamber of Commerce podcast today.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you got into the funding of it. And we'll get into all the resources that are available and everything, or at least we'll scratch the surface on those, because it's an interesting balance. Especially small businesses, they need resources. They want resources that are cheap or free. But then when you mention it's free, there's a little bit like, wait, why is this free? So being able to explain why it's a free resource, I think, goes a long way into establishing the credibility of what you all do.
Well, thank you. And I'd also like to say, because, it is government financed, your tax dollars are being put to work. And this is one of the ways that the taxes are being put to work.
Let's get into those services that you offer. And I know they're numerous, but let's maybe talk with like some of the bigger ones, and then we can maybe get into some of the lesser known ones as well.
Okay, well, our most common. So we serve over 300 entrepreneurs per year, so 300 businesses per year, and that it is a majority of those are startup businesses, okay? People that have an idea and want to make it larger. And then 20% of our clientele is actually long-term clients, people that want to expand their business and don't know really where to start. So first and foremost, I'd like to say is we sit down like the cost of a conversation and we talk to you about what it is your venture is. I like to say the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why, and how are we going to get it completed. So those are one of the first things we do is we have a discussion, and then businesses that have a business plan are 30% more successful than businesses that don't. Mm-hmm. And that is a living document. So it's going to change with, your business as the times change. It's going to evolve as your business evolves. And it's supposed to be your roadmap to success, to keep you on track so that you have measurables, just starting out. Maybe it's you go from a food truck or, crafting business and you want to go into a brick and mortar. What does that look like? Maybe it's something as simple as I need to hire an employee. How much is it going to cost me? Can I afford to hire an employee? These are some of the things that we do help with. But most importantly, we have a lot of resources that are available and a lot of different partners that we work with to help with the financing of your venture. And a lot of those programs can be stacked together. So whether it is a Department of Development loan versus a hometown banking loan, those things can come together and stack together and work together to help offset the down payment costs that you're going to have. One of the biggest questions we get all the time, Doug, is where are the grants?
You were going exactly where I was going to go.
Yep. Where are the grants? So currently, the state of Ohio does not have grants. You may hear of them. These are typically larger grants that are for manufacturing, but not to say that there isn't grants out there. Okay. So we always like to say, currently, we don't have grants that are available that we can get our hands on right now, but there are national grants, depending on the type of business that you're in and the type of grant that you're looking for. Always check out grants.gov and it will give you a whole list of grants. The Department of Development, a lot of infrastructure grants that you'll see out there. And sometimes your local community organizations will throw together a grant. For instance, we just got done with Pitch Fest, which is
Yeah.
open up to the whole Northwest region, which is grant. It is a grant, so you can, pitch your business to a panel of investors that have donated their time and their resources to the initiative. And if you were to win, you receive a grant. So there's a lot of those different types of opportunities that are available. But as far as free money for startups, not here. The TikTok users and the Pinterest pinners like to use those as well. I saw it on Pinterest. I saw it on TikTok. They're probably from California. California has a different funding system. Each state gets different funding and different initiatives depending on what they have in their state government available. The only time we've ever seen free money was through COVID, and we've all seen how that worked out.
Yeah, that was pleasant for everybody, right? I didn't realize that all that was on TikTok these days. I was going to reference Matt. You remember Matthew Lesko looking like a discount?
Yeah.
Commercials back in the day.
Yeah, that started it. That did start it. And a lot of things is, the government does have grants available. It's typically very large, institutionalized. A lot of our college education, circuits are getting grants for specific education, opportunities, STEM, research, AI, things of that nature to help evolve the current circuit that they have and curriculum that they have. So it's not easy, even through COVID, where we saw the majority of the grants going out. A lot of those were not grants. Mm-hmm. They were emergency economic impact disaster loans that people thought were grants and now struggling to make their payments when the payments came back due, just like student loans. So unfortunately, we're not aware of grants. It typically has to be, now Jobs Ohio does have a grant available, but that you have to be doing business to business financing.
Yeah.
And a lot of our smaller businesses are not doing business to business, it's business to consumer. So a lot of, when you're looking at the grants, you want to look at, what are the stipulations and criteria to actually apply for it, because they are work, and they do take time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, grant applications is a whole new episode of this podcast, I think.
That's true.
If we ever see an onslaught of grants come available, then maybe we delve into that. I want to stick on the funding aspect, though, for a second, because like you said, you do work with lenders and people can get small business loans, things like that. And I think maybe a lot of times people maybe mentally disqualify themselves from a loan or whatever that case may be, where it's really actually worth having that conversation. I think anytime I've ever sat down to talk about just finances or anything like that, just from a personal standpoint, if I have that conversation with an area bank, the results have been great and have helped our personal finances immensely. It's worth doing that for your business. If you would do it for your personal finances, do that for your business. You might be surprised what you're eligible for.
Absolutely. Even though our day in life now seems to be a lot more busy than what it used to be, mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you can't have still a personal relationship with your banker. Okay. And it is important for you to know and understand your finances, including how to read your profit and loss, statement that you receive from your accountant, instead of just signing the tax forms, signing a check and sending it off. You need to understand your personal finances, like you mentioned, but also your business finances as well. And having those conversations, you may find that your banker or someone in the small business development network has programs available that might help, offset some costs. Maybe it's something as simple as you need new windows. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a program for that, maybe you're a woman-owned business and you've been in business for 2 years and you'd like to expand, but you can't afford the interest rates right now. But there's a program for that, that you can get certified and you can get a program that has, that works with your local bank institution as well, and to help offset some costs. And the interest rate is definitely half of what the banks can offer you right now. Minority business enterprise. You can get certified as a minority business. You can get certified as both if you're minority and woman. And there's programs that are available for these things that, work in conjunction with not just your traditional financing with your bankers, but can also be stacked together and utilized. Hancock County has a revolving loan fund. Most people probably aren't aware of the fact that Hancock County has a revolving loan fund. How does it work? They don't know. So where do they go? They don't know. One of the great things would be is start with the Small Business Development Center. We can help make those connections, let you know if you qualify, and prepare you for those conversations. Because sometimes it's not always easy just to walk through the door of a bank and say, hey, I want to start a business. They're going to send you to us anyway.
Well, being prepared kind of brings me back to, I wanted to go back to the business plan anyway, because that one, you want to have that if you're going to try and get financing of any sort. I would imagine that's one of the first things that you're going to be asked about. But also, as you mentioned, businesses that have their plan together have a better chance of success. It almost feels like that's a separator in its own right. If you're willing to do the work to put together your business plan, then you're probably willing to do the work to make your business succeed. Whereas if you're trying to fly by the seat of your pants, that's going to be hard to do in the world of business.
Yes, that's very true. I completely agree with you. And unfortunately, we do see a lot of people that have flown by the seat of their pants, and now they've used up all their personal resources. And because of that, they can't get a loan to finish their dream. So that's one of the things we want to avoid. Okay. So we don't want you pulling out your 401k. We don't want you turning in your IRAs. Keep your investment. Let's look at different avenues and different ways that you can fund your dream. And, before we even go there, we got to talk about that business plan, because you're exactly right, Doug. Being in the chamber world, that you can't just flip that open sign and people come running in. They're not going to flock to you. So you have to have a plan of how you're going to do it. And entrepreneurs are creative people and they're risk takers. So they're willing to take the risk. And sometimes they just need that guideline to keep them on track. And the business plan is meant to do that. But I'd also like to mention what you had stated earlier about financing. Small business loans, whether they're traditional, whether they're grants, whether they're through a specialized program, all need to have a business plan. And if you don't have a business plan, and it's not a proper business plan, they're going to send you to us to get it done. So it's just easier to start with us.
I have that conversation first, and you have much less a chance of being caught off guard than if you try and go.
Yeah, it's almost like you walk in the door and immediately get defeated. Almost like you went in to go get a home loan and they're like, denied.
Right.
And you don't want to be defeated, because then your passion is dwindled for that, kind of dims your flame a little bit for your venture. And we don't want to see that happen. Our responsibility is to help you succeed and to connect you with the proper people, like the Chamber of Commerce. We love our chambers of commerce, and we always tell our clients,
I do too.
You want to get involved in your community. You want your community to know who you are, and you want to, meet other like-minded business people. Right there it is, the chamber. You have to utilize your chamber, not to mention the other marketing efforts that the chambers offer, and everybody, you're one of our partner resources, and we appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you as well. Let's talk about the small business moniker in its own right. So I think mentally, when we think of a small business, we think of a business with maybe 10 or less employees, or even smaller than that. But small business is kind of a wide-ranging term. In terms of the development center, what do you consider a small business? Or does it even depend on the type of resource maybe they're looking at?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that question. So because we are federally funded through the Small Business Administration, okay, we follow their guidelines. And a small business is described as 500 employees or fewer. Okay. In our rural area of Northwest Ohio, okay, outside of your metro cities like Toledo and Columbus, the majority of businesses, as you probably look at your chamber membership, the majority of small businesses are typically 25 or less, sometimes even 10 or less, like you had mentioned. And, that does have, some bearing on your business as well, because now you have payroll. You hire one employee, you now have payroll, you also have workers' comp. So it changes the whole dynamic of your original business plan and business model, where it needs to be adjusted.
Yeah.
And every time you grow, whether it's a new account, you're starting to get in more. Well, you're only one person. You can't do it all alone. So what does that employee look like, and how does that work? So a small business is technically described as 500 employees or less.
We've talked a lot about financing, which I think is probably the first thing people think of when they think of your organization. What are some services that you provide that might surprise people?
Okay, so besides helping
That's probably a lengthy list.
the business plan, because we do have templates available now. You can get templates online. There's thousands of them. What we like about our template versus others is that, one, our area of financial institutions are familiar with the template, and it gives you credibility because they know that you've worked with us before coming to them. So they don't have the financial institutions don't have to go back and forth too much more with their underwriters in regards to the venture. The next thing is the cash flow analysis. A lot of people don't understand what's a cash flow analysis. Okay, well, it's just as simple. It is your debits and credits. Okay, just like balancing a checkbook, which most people don't do anymore either. So it's a simple Excel spreadsheet formula. It's going to say, here's what my debts are, here's how much money I need to make to be able to pay back the loan. Okay. Because they're going to take, and I'm glad that you brought this up, Doug, because of what a lot of other people don't understand is, in a startup, your business does not have its own credit score. Your business is your business. You own it, and you are financially responsible for your business, and your business gets credit because you are the owner. You're the human of your business. Okay. So your personal credit defines your creditability or character, okay, financial character, and stability. So that needs to also, kind of have your I's dotted and T's crossed, because it's going to go with the same criteria. You typically always have to have a down payment when getting financing as well. That can come from multiple different sources. So that's another reason why you want to talk with us. But, like earlier I had mentioned, maybe you're ready to expand your business into either another area, or you need to hire more employees. We can help relook at that cash flow and analyze that to see, are you ready? Or is this going to make your business tank? We also can help with succession planning. Maybe you've been in business for 30 years and now you're ready to retire. What is that going to look like? How much do you sell your business for? Can you pass it on to somebody else? Either whether, maybe it's a child that takes over it. What does that look like? What does it look like if your children don't want anything to do with it and you want to sell it? Or is it feasible? Can you just shut it down? Which is what we don't want to happen, because that impacts our community and our economic development. We'd like to see our family-oriented, self-made businesses of 25, 35 years continue. But those are conversations that we can also have in that matter as well.
Actually, that leads into my last question, and you've kind of highlighted it there. I think a lot of times people think when you're talking about these types of resources, this might lean towards startups and new businesses. But the fact is that you're able to provide resources for new businesses and veteran businesses alike.
Absolutely. Because, maybe let's just say you're a small manufacturing business that started out of your garage and you just need a bigger space. Maybe you need a different piece of equipment. You're a printing company that needs to upgrade your equipment. These are all things that are discussions that you can have with your local SBDC. Even if it's not us, we have over 30 local SBDC offices throughout the state of Ohio. So maybe you're here and you have a business in Columbus and it's easier for you to talk to your SBDC down in Columbus. That's fine. We're all in it for the same thing, the success of Ohio businesses. Maybe it's something as I started out as a beekeeper in my backyard, and I've grown to a rather large company and I'm ready to start manufacturing my honey. Maybe it's something as I actually do make some sort of products, but I'm ready to globalize and start exporting. We have exporting services as well. And, exporting, when looking at exportation services, can be very expensive. And by working with our export division, you can help offset those costs and have those conversations, especially when it comes to a cultural, traditional cultural, like what is their traditions of their culture, what is appropriate, what is not, language barriers, things of that nature. Those services are all available to our local businesses, and we want to make sure that they are aware of those things.
It goes to, and I know I said it's the last question, so maybe this is a wrap-up statement and not a question, but I'm sure I'll leave it open for you. The way business is done today, it seems like things change on a daily basis. So trying to navigate that alone, or trying to navigate that through the advice of people on social media, that's maybe not the way to go. Making sure you sit down with experts at the resource center at least can either confirm what you think you already know or point you in a different direction so that you don't get caught off guard if you are looking to do exports or things like that. That can be a tricky world right now. You want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information.
Absolutely, Doug. And I'm glad that you brought that up because, and as being a previous social media strategist analysis and marketing major, I can say you never want to believe everything that you read online. Okay. Asking poll questions are awesome. The opinions are awesome, but everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
And
you're also not scientific.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you're working on, your business, this is your future. It's your livelihood. Our entrepreneurs are the lifebloods of our economics and our community, our economic development, our communities. The last thing we want is for them to get bad advice and the wrong advice and make a mistake that's going to hurt them financially. So definitely have that conversation. And you had mentioned veterans earlier. There's a wonderful veteran program out there. Veterans can also get certified as a veteran-owned business, which a lot of people wonder, why would I want to get certified? Well, it's you've earned it.
Right.
It's a form of credibility, but there's different programs out there for different demographics. And the veteran world, we want to thank the government, wants to thank them for serving and what they have given up and help them succeed in the civilian life and help their dreams come true. Because so there's services available for our veterans as well.
Most definitely.
And we're excited to be able to offer those things and provide education for our entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs. Maybe it's something as simple as you used to be in a business and you want to start a different one. What does that look like? Or you have multiple businesses. Anything is possible when you have the conversation.
Well, Nicole, we really appreciate this conversation. I've kept you far too long. Obviously, we've just scratched the surface of everything that you do. So if people want more information or they just want to get that conversation started with the Small Business Development Center, what is the best way to do that?
Oh, well, they can definitely go to rhodestate.edu and go to community development and SBDC, or just Google Findlay SBDC will pop up, but you can always just give us a call, 419-995-8172. And if they can't even remember that, Doug, they just called local chamber and you'll point them in the right spot.
We will definitely do that. We provide you as a resource to all of our new members, and any members who need that information, we're happy to pass that along. So, Nicole, thanks again for joining us today. This has been a lot of great information.
Well, thank you, Doug. It was a pleasure.